It's like recently this morning I watched a video from Ginny D about the first Dungeons and Dragons movie. She says that it's worse than you would think it is. It's like the comment I posted, I would say it's like a tiny bit emotional when it comes to like my personal theory, at least with Honor Amongst Thieves, but give us so smart, and I want this more more of a calm objection in defense and my 2 cents of the original. It's like not all of the movies are great. Like you can probably there's movies like unless you're thinking like The Room, which is like so bad it's good. Like you're so mesmerized with like how bad it is. That's one thing. But yeah, I also got movies like Disney's The Black Hole, The Screaming Skull, Ernest Scared Stupid. That like not all of it gels, but you have fun. You have fun watching them. Either you're poking fun at the movie or you're enjoying the enthusiasm that the cast brings to the film. Looks like she does have legitimate points. Uh, One of the ones that personally I have to agree with is costuming. That one I can honestly say is more of a per character basis. Like the Elf Ranger's armor that could be better made because even back then it looked like someone just basically took a sled like the plastic sled and molded it into boob armor. And yes, I will defend the boot. I will defend the fact that it's boob armor. Don't you not want support? But there are some good costumes in there. I can think of four myself. Damodar in his full plate with or without the cape. That looks great. Oh yeah, like Christina Ricci's dress. Granted, this is like on the covers, you only get like the headdress, but it was like the one time they actually like the CG artists themselves weren't able to get the gold dragon like the gold dragons they wanted like from the artwork. But kudos to the costume department is like okay, we'll pick up the slack from there. And like her dress is freaking great. Profion's like both his like normal attire and his formal attire. Not snails. Ridley's fine, like the last costume, like the last outfit he has. That one's a good one. And like random cast members here and there, like part of the background. And fun fact: the big guy Ridley fights. He's like he was the best one of the regular Crimson Brigade, even though he like what is like a freaking tree. And oh yeah, and the guards in the mage council chambers. The story, like the plot, the ending being rushed. I can understand that, but at the same time, it's usually one of those things like it kind of like granted I understand her thing is like if you get got to kind of felt like that like the last third of the last quarter of the adventure that it was basically Ridley on his own where the players are like can we just go ahead and wrap up and get out of here, and the DM's like oh crap and I want to try to reincorporate the party on the next adventure. It's like okay we're gonna wrap this up, we're gonna bring start new. That I understand. But there are elements that actually do work. I'm trying to remember, like, I know let's see. Yeah, Justin Whalen and Marlon Wayans, like they work really well together. You believe that they have been friends since like back in the like back when they were kids. They nailed that. Not to mention Jeremy Irons and Bruce Payne. Yeah, Jeremy Irons has overacted a lot, and but him and Bruce Payne worked off well together, being like the over dramatic like literally mustache twirling villain in his right hand stoic hand. It was like the CG. Yeah, I am not going to defend the CG because this was like right when basically the floodgates of CGI works. Let's put it in everything. We don't care about quality. It's more of it's a side effect from Toy Story because Toy Story nailed it being a movie that's solely CGI, but nobody got like gotten through. But there were actually some elements of actual practical effects that work. One of which those like three I could think of. Like first up, it's a really simple trick. I do understand Jenny's objection that the dragon was killed by a pork cutlass. Yeah, it is a dick move and probably a dick wait to die, basically having a heavy door dropped on you. But there was a simple practical effect right beforehand where you see proper hand go pop, like pop, pop, and the locks for the pork cutlass pop. That was practical. All they did is like blink. One was actually a problem with the animatronic. It was the Hyperion. I forgot his name, but the eye was like supposed to like normally blink whenever he blinked, but on that particular shot, the eye wouldn't blink right. So he basically so the guy basically timed when the eye was like at its like widest. And like it's over dramatic, but you can tell that it's a guy that is like trying to like being like overly sarcastic, and it worked. Oh yeah. When Bruce Payne got the not really a mind flare, even though they claim it's a mind flare. The mind parasite, where when you see his head initially turn red, that was all him. He is that talented that he actually forced the blood into his head, and I'm trying to remember right. I think on the commentary said he almost passed out on that one. But at the same time, I think everybody else was concerned that he would have passed out because he literally forced all the blood in his head. That they started doing the practical makeup of like where you see like all the red growing out. At least where he's not trying to force the blood in his head for every take. Oh yeah. She also had an objection that they didn't use their locations enough. I half agree with it, but one of them was more out of practicality because the Bone Chapel, which is a real place, metal as hell. You have like X amount of time for actually filming in the Bone Chapel, let alone actually getting a permit to film there. I do agree. They could have done a lot more with it. But if you're on a limited time, you gotta work with what you got. The second one is actually at the main council chambers itself, on the main council chambers itself. The Prague Opera House was the location for that one, and cool thing about that, the floor not only was a functional floor, the opera house after filming, the production that they asked for, the opera house asked for that floor, and they don't in the production donated the floor to the opera house, so they actually have like a thing to where it elevated. There were also some errors, like what errors that you mentioned, like Profion being the leader of the Mage Council. He was not up until when the Empress was asked to surrender the scepter. When she left with, like, I would say maybe like a quarter to a third of the council, that's when Profion became in charge. There's one guy you actually meet early on when Profion was first pitching the idea of we should actually surrender the scepter because she's a young person and young people don't know how to do the Game of Thrones. Slight pun intended on that one, but the guy actually said young people do stuff from the heart and not the mind with counseling. They'll teach her that there's a way things are supposed to be, which I do agree. I do agree, Empress, that all should be equal, but that's like a whole can of worms that I don't want. That I think she opened up well, but more like how the story was handled. But oh yeah, there's another thing that I'm gonna bring in a little bit of like how in Honor Amongst Thieves, the dungeon was basically a gladiatorial arena. That one was kind of a halvesies. First one being that the fact that it's laid out in a grid and all the walls shoot up and shoot up and a random maze would be it's a meta reference. Thank God it wasn't a meta comedy reference, but it was still a meta reference of like somebody laying down the grid map, either drawing out or putting actual like miniature, like the new actually I've seen these in the wild. The dungeon you can actually build like actual 3D miniature dungeon that you can build depending on what blocks you got. The fact that you can actually watch the fighters as they travel through the dungeon is from this movie. The Silas's dungeon was purpose made to actually be viewed by a crowd. So again, it's kind of a mix. It's a meta reference of like watching a dungeon crawl on a map, or watching a dungeon crawl that's like physically laid out on a map. And this, where the spectators in the arena can watch the adventurers go through the maze and fight. But like this is going to be way better than Honor Amongst Thieves, mainly because this was made during 3.5. There was actual risk. There was not only death was involved. There was actually death involved. there are also those who are critically injured, and a little thing called self-sacrifice. Fifth on amongst these is a Fifth Ed movie, and most of the Fifth Ed stuff I've seen online and I've experienced playing Fifth Ed is that Fifth Ed does not like you dying. He doesn't like you getting hurt. If I were to put, if I were to do like a scale from top tier to low tier, top tier, the cream of the crop, the people's champion, the Ayatollah of rock and roll would be MechWarrior Destiny. Mid would be Vampire the Masquerade. And I do Fifth Ed. Granted, most all these are going to be Fifth Eds, and without the Anarch book, it's mid. With the Anarch book, it's bad. All the way to Weenie Hunt Jr. is D&D Fifth Ed. But I do understand that like everybody has their favorite editions. I have no problem with that. It's like I am not a fan of Fifth Ed myself, but if you have fun with it, I'm glad. As long as you're having fun. Condolences on taste, but again, if you're enjoying it, as long as you enjoy it, have at it. And another thing, I've actually, because of that, I actually had another series of videos pop up. Actually, what would be the, if not like this movie, what would be the best Dungeons and Dragons movie? Like, bear in mind, I have seen both this and Wrath of the Dragon God. I have seen parts of Book of Fire Darkness, so I can't exactly chip in on like what Book of Fire Darkness did. Wrath of the Dragon God is the best official D&D movie. Another one is made during 3.5. You actually get a lot more mechanics involved, like an actual differentiation between arcane and divine magic. Their spell components are involved. You actually do have some skills involved, like Ormeline identifying Ring of the Ram, Nim spotting the trap, turn on Lux going into her barbarian rage. Trying to remember the cleric's name. The cleric of Obot High using Turn on Dead. And it also comes with a 3.5 mini adventure where you actually go into the Malik's Vault. And that, like I said, that's his main run. But there are other runs that are D&D and help inspire D&D, but not D&D itself. First of which, Conan the Barbarian, and this is the 2-pack, so it also came with Destroyer, along with Magician Momoa Conan. Like both are the first movie is like a great sword and sorcery adventure. Second movie actually does feel more like a D&D movie that just happened to have the Conan theme. There's actually a 3.5 Conan the RPG, and it's not. It's like, granted, it's not as hardcore. It's not as brutal as Destroyer's not as brutal as Barbarian, but believe it or not, one of my favorite characters is Zula. I'm not sure if she's a Darfarian or a Kushite, but she is savage. I mean, she fought Babafa with nothing but a survival steer, which is basically pointy stick. Got the entire spear basically just chopped off, and just was able to basically after her final charge, going back at him, like get on and spend the entire time headbutting him with the only piece of armor she had, which was actually not really a helmet, but more of a head plate for whenever like a blade comes in, like ping, like that. The Jason Momoa Conan. Another one is one that's like it is a D&D movie that kind of involves like a lot of the aspects of various level of like various adventures. Like you got your barbarian, you got your my village was destroyed and I feel to have my vengeance storyline. You got a little bit of liberation of slaves. You got your sailing adventure. You even got a dungeon crawl. Like if there's one thing I would do different with this movie, the last two battles, one with a Pictish jailer that was in a chamber that had a kraken, basically cage. Basically, it was basically a well with a kraken that's cage underneath in it, and at random intervals he'll drop prisoners in there. And the final battle was more of a roguish stealth battle. Those I would flip around and have the picked uh, in the stealth battle where you actually see more of the thieving side of Conan because he was a thief at certain points in his life. And the final battle being the being like the where the location or where they were having the ritual to activate the Acheron masks, that it awakened this kraken and was trying to get at Conan with the Acheron descendant having a little bit of control of the kraken, like enough to go there. There's the barbarian, but we'll still have those moments of you're not the boss of me. Alrighty, Red Sonja, another one that it still goes in the Hyborian Age barbarian run. Not as good, but it's one of those ones that uh, they did their best making like a good fantasy movie first, but there's some handball moments like everybody's favorite, like Gedrin, where are you? Where it feels like it should like they purposely slowed down the film like roughly a half a second to get the oversaturated mouth movement. But it is a great movie, like because obviously it's on the cover. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you got the actors who play Valeria back as Queen Gedrin. You got believe it or not, uh, the Prince of Hotblock is played by the main actor from Surf Ninjas, and as a guy, and it's definitely like him as a kid. Yeah, you wouldn't understand why she would give him a spanking, even with the objection of Vulcan. But that one is like I would say is like on par with Destroyer, but not nowhere as close as Conan the Barbarian. But it's still a great film. It's actually my stepdaughter's favorite fantasy film because her favorite scene is the fight with the water dragon, which is a automaton type of thing. Alrighty, Call of the Conqueror, another one that you could feel the enthusiasm from. It's like the cast probably don't know if it's going to be a good film or not, but they all love the material enough that you actually feel that enthusiasm. Like Kevin Sorbo as Cole, that was a good choice. Like granted, I would like to see him a little bit more buff, but I'm not sure how long it was. He was after Conan the Barbarian, then he did that. but at the same time, like Tia Carrera as Queen Akivasha, I gotta pay attention. And like Tia Carrera was like great in his like they didn't give her that much, but she was meant to be a manipulator. Alrighty. Yes, it says Fantasy Action Six Pack. There's actually one specific film that like some of these are optional. One of them being Midnight Sun, which was from what I've heard was basically imagine Lord of the Rings if Sauron had his shit together and kicked ass. The main one, right here, the Beastmaster. This one, like depending on this one, I would probably say it's Hyborian Age adjacent. It's more influenced by the Bronze Age, but at the same time, it's a great. It's like the writing is solid. Some of the actions iffy, but basically like the fact they actually another one they actually got real animals, which this one's actually more confirmed, like that the hair dye they used for the tiger to make it black because it was supposed to be like a very rare breed of tiger. It died from licking the hair dye off because you can actually tell when it's licking itself. The tongue's black. There was one review that said it was a fur coat that they almost killed it with. Like, unfortunately, no. There's actually more reports confirming that it is that was hair dye and it was very toxic. But the Beastmaster is actually a class in Dungeons and Dragons, both in second ed and 3.5. The second ed it's actually closer to the film version where you can have multiple animal companions with Beastmaster, Dar, befriends Skylar the Eagle, the parrots Kodum, Hodo, and the Tiger. In 3.5, you're still limited to one, which sucks, but it's one of those things that, at least with like as a DM, I can understand not wanting to do multiple animals at the same time. But it's also like one of those like it is also a really bad good movie, and like some of the concepts I like the zombie berserkers. Well, they're not really zombies, but they're the Gimp berserkers, as most people would call them. It's like the fact that you actually put somebody into a blind range in armor with nothing but spike gauntlets. That's a really good concept. Overthrowing a corrupt or at least heretical priest, and not to mention it being also it being a barbarian movie is like you can get a lot of influence from like you can do like a barbarian run, like an entire barbarian style party, and it will work. I'm kind of sort of cheating with this one. Highlander, yes. The main reason I'm cheating a bit of this one because 3.5 helped develop a lot of games like in house for Wizards of the Coast. It's D20 Modern, Past, Future, Apocalypse, Dark Matter, like Urban Arcana, Dark Matter. This would be Urban Arcana, but instead of it being like magic, like all your D&D races in modern times, it is Immortals. But it still feels enough like a D&D adventure that I can at least give it a recommendation. Everybody's favorite, The Hobbit. I would say optional. I would go for the Bashki animated one because that one's a little bit more solid. my objection with this one is like it should have been a duology because the first movie ended exactly where it needed, right where it's like that is where the first movie ends. Second and third movie is kind of going on and on and on and on. And Stephen Colbert's persona non grata. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, self-explanatory. One of the influences of D&D, and like if you want go back to the source, like the novels, both the novels, the Peter Jackson film. Technically, the only reason I'm saying technically, I haven't seen them myself, but the Banshee animated Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and there's a couple more. When it comes to Arthurian legend, which is actually another one of those, if you want to go back to the well, there's some options. Kind of depends on which way you go. One of the ones I do happen to own is King Arthur. Fun fact with the second ed, they actually have time period specific settings where you have like Roman era, Viking, Egypt, technically Orient Adventures, which was supposed to be like ancient Japan, like medieval Japan specific. And it went, no, this is a cool setting, let's make it its own thing, but still. There's one, granted, this version of of the Arthurian legend basically it takes what if it was like similar to the myth of Troy, that it's myth. Well, what if it was an actual person? And this is a great D&D movie in itself because you got fighters of various skills, your classic barbarian, your ranger, and others like that. Of more recent times, the Northmen. Like if you go into like the Viking specific, and another good one as a for second ed, but it's definitely a 3.5 where the end worked really hard to pull off like are you really the hero or are you just an overglorified murder machine? Kingdom of Heaven. This one I would say more directed more towards clerics and paladins, but this is a great D&D movie where there's actually an Arabian setting, and you can get it set up to where like a group from an Eastern, like a Western European setting going into that of the ones I don't own. I have seen that I have seen, and it would be good for this. The 13th Warrior with the Antonio Banderas. That one I could also put in as as a barbarian movie as an asterisk. The asterisk being not a Hyborian Age movie, but to even you saw the Vikings as barbaric, and even the Windows barbaric. But as you got got to know the party and learn their language and learn that they're not at all different outside of religion and customs. But yeah, another one I would put in the same vein as King Arthur would be 47 Ronin. Yeah, another bad movie, but I took it more as like as a fantasy movie. About mid, but it's a really great Oriental Adventures because this is one of those things that actually did incorporate more of the more of the mythological, fantastical elements, and it was a pretty solid fantasy movie. Even if it was like if you're going in thinking that it's going to be about historically accurate, no. The fact that you're slaying a monster throws historical accuracy out the window. But trying to remember what else. But there were other fantasy movies. Oh, Dragonheart. That one you gotta bear in mind, like there is a monk in the movie. But occidental. So you're not getting the kung fu moves, but at the same time, is more of a chronicler, which would be a more appropriate uh, disguise. Not to mention, you could probably do like what would happen if a like if you're more familiar with Dragonlance, and you know what happens if a rider becomes corrupted, but the dragon didn't. Oh yeah, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. This one is a not only I would argue it's like it's like same basically same like similar thing as King Arthur. What the person was actually a figure, was actually there, not just spinning tall tales. Kevin Costner does a really good like my favorite character being Morgan Freeman, and it was like have some of the like some of the great like some of the greatest lines, and also like one of those things like similar like oh yeah similar than like to like the Gamers 2 Darkness Rising. What happens if you put this class into a different type of thing, like with Darkness, like Gamers 2 Darkness Rising? One of the players makes a dex-based fighter and fights for the spear with, I could argue, Hazim being the intelligence-based fighter. Is like he knows where to land the hits, and he also can think outside the box and come up with the with some of the gadgets like the homemade telescope. Speaking of the Gamers series, particularly Darkness Rising, which is movie number 2, and actually is cameoed by Monty Cook, who is a renowned RPG designer. That is basically what I would argue, like 2 directions that you can, if you want to do the perfect D&D movie. The first one being the Gamers franchise. Like, even make it like an anthology. The main story is what you actually see on screen, and then you have the wraparound moments of like you go to the real world, and you can have like the little bit of back and forth of like the DMs, like, so what what would you like to do now, or have somebody like, is that in the rules? How the Gamers does is more of a comedic thing, but like I don't mind a little bit of levity, but it's one of those things like it's like it's not it's not Jumanji as the director claims that claims that people want. Is like Jumanji the movie, and the original movie, and its spin-off Zathura, the game, was becoming reality. The game stays separate from reality up till like the very end, which even then, something you can actually toss out the window, rather than not that the game became real. If it were, I would have got Mazes and Monsters out of the thing for it. Like, it is a D&D movie, but what it's based off the Chick track of D&D is the devil. Ooh, but yeah, oh yeah, like all my recommendations including this stack right here. I would say like this stack right here would be like kind of a mix between like second ed and 3.5 whenever bringing up editions. Like the closest movie that I've seen, I didn't put it on this list, but there's a reason why, is The Princess Bride. I can see it as a D&D movie, but it's the closest to D&D 5th ed than some of the other movies. One guy suggested that Lady Hawk was a 5th ed movie. I'm like, no. Fifth Ed would literally bend over back, like depending on like the game itself would bend over backwards to make sure you don't die. And somebody who's when whose last game was I went up, we went up party of three went up against 40 goblins and I killed 30 solo and lived barely a scratch. Like which I had a scratch, but again like 3 damage scratch at level 1. Playing a dwarf barbarian wearing no armor and wielding 2 axes. Again, like I said, Weenie Hut Jr. Like, but there's also the flip side of all the stories I hear of people like going through like wanting to engage more in the shipping wars than actual playing the game, doing the combat, and doing all that. The Princess Bride is the movie that's like it's closest to what the D&D horror stories of the shipping wars, but it gives you enough actual action to keep you engaged. But and on a final note, this is more on. I would like to extend an apology to Michelle Rodriguez. Like, I love you, ma'am. I love your acting, but when it comes of your movies, I would prefer like SWAT, Resident Evil, the Fast movies that you've been in, where you were basically the fighter, but you weren't taking but either the game in the case of Resident Evil or reality with like SWAT and Fast movie, it wasn't bending over backwards that you shouldn't be damaged. I remember SWAT, you got shot twice, and it was like that's like thank God for Kevlar. I want to get as many shares when we're done. That's an appropriate response. But still, well, like I said, and I'd like to conclude that never underestimate the movies that they may not be good, but they are fun.